Ayahuasca put you through the grinder quite a bit. Over those 4 days, it seemed like everything changed. I started to see, like, talk about seeing the matrix. I could see how all of it worked. The shaman finally comes over and he says, tomorrow night, you help with the ceremony. And I kind of look over and there's this giant, I'll say smoke being, but that's the only way I could do it. And I had this realization that, like, I'm sitting there with, this is all strange. I still don't know how to conceptualize what happened, but I have this understanding that I'm sitting there talking to the spirit of the ayahuasca plant. I ask it all these questions, and it's answering them, like question after question after question. So I started actually practicing some energy healing, went down to the jungle and did ayahuasca. And the first time I went down to the jungle and did ayahuasca, it was for 4 nights. It was just this, it's intense. You know about ayahuasca and you've read or
Yeah, yeah.
done? Okay.
No, no, not done. Heard about it. I was actually in Colombia and I met a lot of people who did it. And then
Hmm.
hearing their experiences, I was kind of hesitant if I should jump into it because some people were more confused than before.
Mm.
And for some people, it was way too much. And I think it was also a spiritual bypass. I felt that people were more into the experience rather than taking it as something that they will carry on with the way of living or the way of perceiving things. It was more just a situation, a moment, but it didn't necessarily lead to a change in their day-to-day life. So that made me
Yeah.
feel hesitant about it. But in general, I think that there are a lot of natural medicines that are out there that
Mm.
shamans are using that can definitely help.
Your statements are interesting because they kind of dovetail into where my story is going. So I went down and I had this very large experience. Ayahuasca is very, kind of puts you through the grinder quite a bit, but over those 4 days, it seemed like everything changed. If we have another one, I can actually get into the full 4 days because it's a quite an intense experience. But I got done and I was like, oh, everything's different. I see my life in a different way. I see the way the world is in a different way. I can see how I grew up. And then I come home and similar to what you said, very quickly you're falling back into the old patterns. Very quickly you're realizing that just because you have some insight or some experience, it doesn't mean that your life has changed. I was dating a girl at the time, and we were just kind of fighting all the time. It was one of those relationships where there's a lot of acrimony, things that didn't need to be thought about were thought about. And I thought, oh, okay, I changed myself. Sort of the roomy thing of when I was young, I was a fool, so I tried to change the world. When now that I'm older, I'm wise and I changed myself. I think I'm paraphrasing that, but the point still stands. So I got home and I had this huge experience, but I fell back into my life and very quickly I found myself sharing this experience. I'm like, let me tell you, let me tell you, let me tell you. And there's nothing more obnoxious than somebody who's had some experience and can't stop talking about it. So we decided to go back this time with the girlfriend and then travel around Cusco for a while. And so, interestingly enough, and in Park City, in a bookstore in Park City, there was this book called Midnights with the Mystic. Now, it's written by a guy named Sadhguru and a lady named Cheryl Simone. But the foreword is by this fellow Richard Vogt. If you've read Eat, Pray, Love, he plays a large role in Eat, Pray, Love. He is actually Richard from Texas. The girl I was dating was just obsessed with Eat, Pray, Love. Every time she had a couple of glasses of wine, she would start telling me about Elizabeth Gilbert's story and how she just in this detail. And I'm like, don't buy this book. I don't need anything more about Eat, Pray, Love in my life. I have to hear it enough. So I'm actively trying to dissuade her from
Hmm.
buying this book, Midnights with the Mystic. Well, as you can probably tell by our relationship, I think that made her buy it. So she buys the book. We go to do ayahuasca, and we were doing 3 nights with this group. And the first night, I just had this, I guess it was similar to the other experiences before. The second night, one of the weird things about ayahuasca is the more you do it, the less you need to go on the journey. So the first time I did it, I think I took 3 cups by this night, which was the sixth night. I was like, I'll just take a half a cup. So I took this half a cup, and it was like the veils just parted. I could see exactly what was going on. They see these songs. They sing, or the ayahuasca, or the shaman sings these songs. He has this pipe, and you'll be sitting there having this experience, and you look in over the fire. He's sitting there, and there's this little cherry, and it's like lit. He's just staring at you, like sucking, I don't know, sucking this stuff out of you, and then blows it out, and then you're like, oh, I feel
Mm.
better. So I started to see, like, talk about seeing the matrix. I could see how all of it worked. I could understand how the music played. I could do all that. And then usually the trips last 4.5 hours, 4 to 4.5 hours. So you start at 8, it's midnight, and then you go back and you sleep. And a weird thing about ayahuasca too is you wake up the next morning feeling amazing. It's not like other drugs where you're just like, oh, that hurt and so like that. You wake up or I should say I shouldn't say it across the line. I would wake up feeling just like you're purged. Part of it is vomiting. Part of
Mm.
it is the other way. This was like, it was 2:30. I was going on 6.5 hours, and I am just in this euphoric state. The shaman finally comes over and he says, time for bed. It's like, okay, okay. And he looks at me and goes, tomorrow night, you help with the ceremony. I kind of gave him this look. He goes, no, no, you help. I teach you. So I went home just on this euphoric high, and I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, and I'm just like, okay, tomorrow I start my journey to being an ayahuasca shaman. And so I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, and the sun is coming up, and it's this like indigo sky, and I'm hearing, "Ooh, ooh, ooh, ooh." And I look, and there's this branch silhouetted, and this one little monkey runs to the end, and then it jumps. Then I hear, "Ooh, ooh, ooh, ooh." And then the second little monkey runs to the end. And so the girl I'm seeing at the time, I'm like, hey, is this happening? And she looks at me, she goes, yes, go the F to sleep. And so I go to sleep. I wake up the next day. I'm feeling great the next day. So the next night, I was just like, I'm just going to have a sip of this stuff and start my journey in the next phase of my life. I'm going to learn how to do it. I'm going to do all this sort of stuff. It's beautiful. It's a path of heart. So I take this sip of this stuff, and I am laid flat on my mat. So I'm just laid there flat on my mat. And I was like, unable to move. And then all of a sudden, I'm 30 feet from there, and I can look over and see my body. I can look over and
Mm.
see the entire ceremony happening. I remember there's this guy that had his mat, and he had it pulled up to here, and he was walking around. Later, he told me he thought he was a crab. So I can see this going on, and I can just see the shaman looking at me like, hey, we're supposed to be doing this thing. And I kind of look over, and there's this giant, I'll say smoke being, but that's the only way I could do it. And I had this realization that like I'm sitting there with, this is all strange. I still don't know how to conceptualize what happened, but I have this understanding that I'm sitting there talking to the spirit of the ayahuasca plant, right? Each ayahuasca works with a different incarnation. Our shaman worked with Dr. Ayahuasca. So I sit there and I'm like, okay, cool. I ask it all these questions, and it's answering them like question after question after question. So this goes on for maybe 2 hours or something like that. And I'm sitting there just, this is amazing. I'm connecting with something. And then at the end of it, I'm like, thank you so much. I can't wait to come down here and do this. And I kid you not, it says, this isn't your path. These states are accessible without drugs. Don't come back. Right.
Mm.
And I don't know what experience, you never hear a cocaine addict saying, cocaine told me not to do cocaine. You never hear someone who smokes a lot of weed be like, yeah, in between Doritos that I'm eating, I don't want to be smoking pot anymore. So I was just, but that's pretty clear. So we finish, and I wake up the next morning, and I'm just, what the hell just happened, right? What is going on? I got kicked out of the garden. I found something that's real. I connected with something, and now I'm out. But I start noticing things like the guy who brought us down there, he's been coming for 25 years. He's bickering constantly with his soon to be sixth wife. And not really from a place of judgment, but and looking at all these people who have been doing this a long time, and similar to what you said, I realized this hasn't solved their problems, right? Like they can have a big experience, but they're dependent on the circle. They're dependent on the Amazon. They're dependent on the fire. They're dependent on their environment to have these experiences. And that's not sustainable. Like you come down from the high, you are no longer able to be immersed in that. So then all you have are things that you talk about, like experiences that you talk about, something that was not a living reality for you. I actually got really, really depressed. I went from this mountaintop all the way down to here, and I was just like, I don't know if anything is real. And we were in Cusco. We were going through the mountains of Cusco, and I had this moment where I broke down, and I was like, I'm done. I'm done fighting with life. I'm done struggling to survive. I'm done with all of this. If there's anything real, it needs to happen now. Because I was still not sleeping well. I was in a relationship that I thought was one of love and with this new person who was on the same path as I was, and we were just bickering all the time. And so I was like, okay, if something has to happen, it has to happen now because I'm done. And I woke up the next morning and I was like, okay, well, there's nothing that's real. And I started making plans. And I was like, okay, well, it's kind of time to end it. I've been miserable my whole life. It's time to just end it. And so I started making plans. I knew where I was going to do it. I was going to go home. I was going to wrap things up financially, leave in a place where they could find the body. And I was just calmly, rationally going through how I was going to end things. And we were on this bus ride. It was about 6 hours. I was reading a book to pass the time. I finished my book. I asked around. Nobody had books. The only person who had a
So
book.
you were thinking about suicide? Is it?
Oh no, I wasn't thinking about it. I was committed to it. I was just done.
Uh,
Yeah, no. It was not a thought anymore. It was something that I had considered as option here and there when things got really bad. But at this point, I was like, I'm done. Everything just kind of leads to the same shallow depth, right? And there's nothing that can fix you on a large level. Like there's nothing to handle the human condition. I'm miserable. I can have these experiences, but I come back to me being miserable. I can have these
um,
experiences. I come back to being sleepy. I come back to my body hurting. I come back to all that sort of stuff. Like I was in quite the state. And I just made that decision. I was like, I'm done. Right. I'm not fighting this anymore. I don't want to be alive. So in that state of mind, we're traveling on a 6 hour bus ride, and the only book that we had 4 hours left was Midnights with the Mystic, which I begrudgingly accepted. I was like, okay, I'll read this thing. It was interesting because it's not stuff that I hadn't heard. A lot of it was stuff that I had read, but for some reason, Sadhguru talking about it, it seemed like someone for whom this was real. It didn't seem like he was talking about theory. It didn't seem like he was talking about, something that he had learned from somebody. He seemed to have some experience of whatever that it is that makes life worth living. I'd love to say I had this, Paul on the road to Damascus moment where the scales fell from my eyes and but I looked at it.
From being just a piece of creation, you move to become the creator. If you live on the surface, you just live as a piece of creation. If you go to the core, you are the very creator himself. So this is a choice you have. Either you exist here just as a piece of creation, pushed and pulled by the forces of life, or you exist here as a creator, creating your own destiny, making your life happen.
And when we got back to the hotel, I looked it up and I saw something. I was like, okay, there's a class in LA 6 weeks from now. Okay, I'll take that. Who cares if it was the middle of July or I guess it was beginning of July, end of June. It's like, who cares if I kill myself in September instead of beginning of August? I'll wait, take that class, see if anything's there.
yeah.
Actually, we went through the whole class. It was not with Sadhguru. It was as I think they had just started in the US offering classes via teachers. I was like, okay, this is interesting. It was interesting. And then initiation day happened. During Shambhavi initiation, I had some kind of crazy experience where it was very, very similar to an ayahuasca trip. Much shorter, but the intensity and all that sort of stuff was similar. And so long story long, that's how I came across Sadhguru.
So what the ayahuasca told you?
I mean, it's weird to think about it in those terms, isn't it? It's like weird to quantify it and say this led to this, led to this. But I look back and that's what seems to have happened, is that it's said that there's another way. And then you have that moment where you break down, right? You have that moment where you hit rock bottom and you're just, whatever it is, you're done with living life the way you're living. You realize that it's a grind, it's untenable. For me, there was nothing that brought me joy. And I just said, you know, in a certain sense, the student is ready, right? Like whatever it takes, then the master appears.
Mm-hmm.
That's the old saying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I still have no idea what exactly to make of that story because it seems very outlandish.